Dialogue is usually the last thing you think about before writing your script. By the time you get to this phase, the characters should be more than ready to start talking to you if you have prepared the rest of your story well. Premature writing of dialogue will strangle it creatively. Everyone must find their own methods for writing scripts, but it does make sense that if you already really know your plot, theme, and character before you write the dialogue, it's going to be much tighter and deeper, and it's going to move the story forward in a much more concise, and it's going to hit the nail on the head with every line than if you're searching for your story while you're writing your dialogue and you just sit down to write your script. You're going to have a lot of dialogue in there that maybe you don't need, or it's going to be wandering. Keep the audience hungry for dialogue, using it only when you absolutely cannot show something visually. So most beginning filmmakers will use way too much dialogue. They'll write too many lines of dialogue, they'll just use it, they'll have the characters say exactly what they're thinking and then do that thing, and it's just very repetitive. Dialogue has to be something that's used as sparse as possible. You don't want talking heads all the time. And some filmmakers and writers do use a lot of dialogue and they're really good at it and it works, but in general it's better to really try not to use constant talking characters and show them doing things to let us know what's happening as much as possible. Write for the eye first. The more dialogue you use in your film, the less impact it will have on the viewer. So if your characters are talking all the time, people start to tune that out. But if you have characters that hardly ever say anything and then they say something, it's much more important. People listen to it like, wow, they said something, you know. Listen to the various ways people talk to each other in your own life to develop a good ear for writing realistic dialogue. Keep in mind the following techniques when constructing dialogue profiles for each of your main characters. And there's a dialogue profile page for each character in your workbook that you can fill out. And as I go through the following techniques, I want you to add ideas for each character's dialogue profile sheet. If they're a main speaking character, you don't need it if they don't say anything. You want to be able to refer to that information quickly when you're writing your script and just know, okay, they use these types of words, they talk like this, and this is another thing they do when they talk, and you just want to have a very distinct voice for each character in your story. One of the first things you can look at is vocabulary. Each character should have a different set of words they use when speaking, which are unique and distinct from all other characters in other movies and in that story or film. Gangsters in Oakland talk completely different than the ones in New York or Las Vegas. Clockwork Orange did a brilliant job of creating a new vocabulary for criminals and is worth watching to study for the use of the characters' dialogue alone. They come up with all these different ways to talk about what they're doing and crime, and they've got this whole really artsy criminal vocabulary that makes the film seem really brilliant. A character saying "you lie like a Persian rug" sounds more interesting in a script than "that's a lie." If you were doing a story about surfers, you would research different types of surfer slang. And that's easy to find on the internet. You can just Google surfer slang or whatever type of slang you're looking for and usually find lots of information on that. No two people or characters view the world the same way. A mathematician sees everything as equations. Stockbrokers relate everything to the market. Football players talk like they are always in a huddle. Priests talk as if they are the voice of God. The Queen refers to herself as we. Use spoken metaphors that relate to your character's history for their dialogue. No two people have the exact past, future, physical attributes, socialization, experiences, or money. What people say to themselves and others define their reality and show us who they are in a sense. Your words create what you speak about. Learn to speak positively. Using character traits to create dialogue. A character's mindset should be easy to figure out by looking at the 5 character traits you came up with earlier. A character trait is defined as something that determines the way a character sees the world or a way of being which relates to their mindset. This Bigfoot wants to be a cowboy, even though he is too big to ride most horses. His main character traits are cowboy, Bigfoot, macho, delusional, and funny. His cowboy state of mind causes him to say things like, "Let's rodeo," instead of "Let's get out of here." And "I feel like a horse that was ridden hard and put up wet," instead of saying "I'm tired." Notice how each of his 5 character traits are reflected in the dialogue choices. So cowboy, Bigfoot, macho, delusional, funny. Let's rodeo. That gives us, he's kind of macho, funny, we get all that. Look how you can incorporate that in your character dialogue profiles. How can you color every line of dialogue your character speaks with their own personal flavor? Keep a list of each character's 5 traits while writing dialogue to see how many traits you can reflect in word choices. I like to write my main character's 5 character traits on a little post-it sticky and put it by my monitor while I'm writing or my notebook. And that way I always know exactly what that character's about. If I'm in the middle of writing something and I forget all 5 of each character's traits, you can just glance at that and it'll give you ideas on how to deal with that character in each situation and how that character would deal with things and really get into their mindset. Once again, you should be able to go through your script at the end, strip all of the characters' names off of the dialogue, and still be able to tell who's talking. Tracking speech patterns. What specific techniques do you notice people use when they talk to each other? Keep a page in your notebook to write down speech patterns or good lines you hear that really show us who the character or person is underneath. What types of sayings do the people you know use, and what does it say about who they are? Following list I'm going to go through, these are more when characters are talking together, so you use, some of them are specific to characters, but it's more writing conversations and how you can make dialogue between 2 characters or a group of characters sound more realistic. But you may want to add some of these ideas to the profiles too, if it makes sense. Use a question to answer a question. Character A asks, "How was the party?" Character B replies, "Have you ever fallen through a skylight?" So this lets us know that the party wasn't that good and that somehow the character fell through a skylight. So it's much more interesting than character B saying, "Oh, it sucked, I fell through a skylight." "Have you ever fallen through a skylight?" is answering a question with a question that lets us know what happened in an interesting way. Character avoids a question. Character responds with silence, changes topic, uses tentative speech, "Yeah, I guess," or indefinite response. Maybe they just ignore the question completely. We've all seen people do this, so come up with ways. Some characters may be better at avoiding questions than others, so you'll see how that works. Character responds with action instead of speech. Character A asks, "How do you feel?" And character B punches a hole in the wall, screaming right next to character A. So we get that. It's not, character B doesn't say, "Oh, I'm really angry with you." That would be flat. But showing character B punching a hole in the wall lets us know that he's very upset. He punched a hole in the wall, so we get that. Characters in own world. Character A keeps asking character B about something, while character B just keeps talking about something else, ignoring character A's question. One or both of them could be in their own world talking about completely different things. Characters go off on tangents. Have your character get distracted by another thought or conversation and start talking about something else. Character A says, "My dog never did like poodles." Character B replies, "I wonder if ghosts dream." So these are 2 different complete conversations happening. Avoid using on-the-nose dialogue, where characters say what they really mean to say. Decide what your character really means to say, then have them blurt out the exact opposite or something off the subject completely. Place the feelings of the characters beneath the surface of what they say. So this will give you subtext too. We already talked about this.